Thank you so much, Christy. It's great to be here. Good. I probably need a clicker too, right?
It's right there.
Thank you. All right. It's the after lunch, kind of part of the day so we're gonna do something a little bit active. Everybody got a pencil, pen, computer, something? Get it ready. All right. In a second here, oops, are we clicking here? How do we click? There we go. All right. In a minute here, I'm just going to put up an image, and I want you to just jot down just the first words that come into your mind when you see this image. What does it make you think of? What do you see in this image? Don't overthink it. Just write the first few things that come into your mind. Words, phrases, you name it. Ready? Here we go. First, words and phrases. What do you see here? What does it make you think of? All right, hold on a second. Pencils down. Come on, good test takers. All right, show of hands. How many wrote down a building? Okay, an office building. Okay, keep your hands up if you wrote them all down. How many wrote down an empty building? Empty building, okay. A building with a heck of a lot of lights on. Some, but not everybody, okay. How many wrote down wasted energy? Okay, so that was sort of, I would say, about half of you who wrote down wasted energy in this photo, and about half who I saw hands up earlier who didn't write that down. Yeah, I mean, the point here is I have a colleague, several colleagues who spend most of their days working on energy. I spend a lot of my time working on energy issues. They in particular spend a lot of time working on issues of energy efficiency and trying to reduce energy waste. And if I put this photo in front of them or in front of a building manager whose job it is to watch the numbers and watch the dollar signs on energy use, they immediately see a picture that screams to them energy waste. And oh my gosh, somebody left all the lights on, and that's costing a lot of money, right? I myself actually, at Resource Media, we're a nonprofit communications group that works with lots of other groups that are working on all kinds of different environmental, public health, land, water issues. And I spend a lot of my time working on climate and energy issues. But I don't work, and I haven't worked predominantly on the issue of energy waste, or what's going on in this photo, right? The idea of energy efficiency. When I first saw this photo, I didn't immediately think energy waste. And I work in this area for the most part. So I think the reason I sort of start off with this here is that we're going to talk a little bit today about testing images with our audiences. Because I think a lot of times it's, we have so many great best practices that steer us towards really great imagery. We've seen so many examples of it already today. So whether that's, connecting with people's interests, finding ways they can relate personally, triggering some emotion, getting up close, focusing on eyes and faces and smiles. There's all kinds of, experience and research that gets us toward the ability to really know what are going to be effective images. On the other hand, we have a lot to choose from. Every project is different. There are a lot of different issues. We have different goals for our projects. We have different audiences we're aiming them at. Sometimes we want them to do something. Sometimes maybe we don't. And how do you know for sure that what you're putting in front of people is working. We have lots of ways to get feedback. We've seen some great numbers on YouTube views, millions. That's pretty good feedback. We have other kinds of metrics we can use in terms of whether people are clicking, engaging, and that kind of things. And what we've been working on a lot lately is working with groups to be sure that we're not just making assumptions about what something says to us and going with only that and potentially missing the opportunity to learn about something else that might have worked better. So trying to find some more options and opportunities to get feedback on a variety of our image choices. And so I'm going to just kind of walk through a little bit of a couple of projects and experiments that we've done in the last few years, a few of the things that we've learned along the way, a little bit of our kind of learning journey on this, and along the way we'll look at some of the different approaches that are available to us for testing images, and a few of the kinds of common findings that we're seeing crop up over and over. So I'll start with one that's here in the Pacific Northwest. Some of you may be familiar with the issue of coal exports. The idea of taking coal that's mined in the interior West, putting it on trains and building terminals along the Pacific to load it onto ships bound for Asia for coal-fired power plants. And there's been a long effort here in Washington, also in Oregon, organizing by environmental groups, by community groups, by health groups, by tribes, you name it. Lots of great organizing and concern expressed about this issue and about both its climate impacts, its local health impacts, its traffic and train congestion impacts, all kinds of things. And a few years ago, there was a terminal that was, the idea was to build one on the Columbia River. It's called the Port of Morrow. And the groups doing the organizing against this really wanted to do some outreach beyond their usual base. They were doing a great job on Facebook, had built vibrant communities and so on. But a critical moment was arriving in this project where it was facing a sort of decisive moment. And they really wanted a lot of residents in the greater Portland area and along the gorge there to weigh in with the governor and with the state agency that was looking at this proposed terminal. So they really wanted to do some paid outreach to get out beyond just who they were reaching already through their social media and on-the-ground organizing. And so we worked with them to do some website display ads. So these, you're all familiar with these. They annoy you, right? Because they come up on your screen when you're surfing around, and somehow you go, how did they know I wanted to buy those shoes? Right? And they're up in the corner, and they're maybe 2 inches by 3 inches, different shapes and sizes. They come in all sizes now, right? And the ones I hate the worst are the ones that take over your whole screen, and you've got to click to get them away. So we said, well, let's do some of the smaller ones, the less obtrusive ones. And folks had all kinds of ideas about what we should show. All right, well, we should show kids. We should show fishing. Recreation is threatened. I mean, if the coal spills in the water, we should show the Columbia River Gorge. I mean, that's where this thing's going to be located. We should show trains filled with coal. We should show cars backed up. People had all kinds of, a lot of groups and organizations working on this, right? And everybody had theories about what would be the thing that would get somebody's attention, make them click, and go on to put in their email address and send an email to the governor and to the director of the state agency. And there was all kinds of ideas. And many of them had merit. It was hard to say, oh no, well that won't work. There's no way that's going to work, right? So I'm just showing, you see a couple of them up here. Somebody even said, well, look, it's really about clean energy here. That's the solution. Let's do the positive. Let's appeal to people with an image that says, something positive in the solution. So there was these plus, I don't know, another 10 or 12 or 15 different options. And we said, all right, well, let's find out. So we worked with, in this case, we worked with a firm that was able to help us buy website display ads aimed at the same population in the greater Portland area, and to have about 8 or 9 different ads competing with one another at the exact same time, served randomly out into this population, measuring metrics as we go. So I'll show you 2 of them. These were 2 of the ads. We had about 9 different ones. Because, and, this was just 2. And let's see what we found. So the click rate, and for those of you who, I don't know how many people have kind of done this sort of website display advertising, I'm much more fond of using promoted posts in Facebook, which I find much more cost effective. This is a difficult way to reach people, really. But this was what we tried a couple years ago. And the click rates were pretty much the same for both of these. Just whether somebody clicks on it or not. Almost identical, no real difference. The action rate, and when I say action rate, this is a measure of if you clicked, did you then, when you got to the landing page where you landed, go on to put in your personal information and send an email to your elected official? That is, taking an action, giving these groups your email. Pretty big ask, actually, for a cold call kind of thing, right? Just you're sitting there browsing on the website and suddenly you're asked to do this. So, of the 0.1 or 0.2% who click, 13% take action with this ad on the right, and about half with the other ad. So that is a significant difference. This was, there was tens of thousands of impressions. These are big numbers, so you run the statistics on it. This is not due to some random error. This is a real difference, and it turns into real money, right? So what's going on here? Why does this happen? Of course, the problem with testing images in this kind of manner is that we don't really know for sure. I can't go and ask people, hey, why did you click on that but then not take the action? Or why did you click on that and then you went and took the action? What's the difference between you two? I wish we could. And we'll see in a minute that in focus groups and through focus group research, we can start to get some sense of what might be going on here. We can also make some theories based on both that experience of focus group research and also sort of what we know about best practices with imagery and so on. One of the things we're finding as we do more and more of this kind of thing is that in this world of very quick glance, kind of something's coming across my screen, people are exposed to so many images nowadays all the time. They're giving them, this is just split second. Should I click? Do I click? Don't I click? It's coming through my Facebook feed. It's popped up on my screen, right? This is not a studied, thoughtful process. So one of the things we think is going on here is that if people are clicking, if the image says something to them that is quite disconnected from the ultimate action ask they're being asked to take, you're going to lose them at the action ask, right? And so it's why I started with that photo of the building with the lights on. If you're going to ask people something about energy waste, and you're going to assume that they see energy waste in that photo, you'll be fine. But if they don't, you're going to lose them. They might have been clicking for some other reason. Here, you might just be clicking to find out where was that wonderful fish caught. I wonder where I'm going to be going fishing this weekend, right? So all kinds of possibilities. We know that we've got to strike an emotional chord with people. The Columbia River Gorge, that is the Columbia River Gorge, and it ultimately is what this was about. We also are finding in a lot of our focus group research that creating contrasts, juxtapositions, is a very engaging thing to do with imagery. And in this case, with the Columbia River Gorge, you're actually creating that with the combination of text and image, right? What do you see in your mind's eye when you read that? So much better without big coal barges. in your mind's eye, you see that treasured special place to you as a Portland area resident filled with something unappealing. And it creates that contrast. We don't know for sure that that's what's going on, but we can make some theories, and you all may have some other ideas as well. Let's take a look at another story. So let's go over to Alabama this time. And in Alabama, we were working with groups who were interested in, and they didn't really have big networks built in Alabama, so they were interested in doing some outreach, this time not on websites, but through Facebook. And through creating some posts to put into people's Facebook news feeds as sponsored posts. So essentially paid advertising in Facebook to reach way beyond your Facebook fan base. And we know that Facebook only serves nowadays to some fraction of your fan base. So unless you're getting a lot of viral sharing, you're not getting a lot of reach as an organizational page anyway nowadays. Facebook is forcing us to pay. Big surprise. It was their design all along, wasn't it? But it does, just like in the website display ads, you can use Facebook if you pay to conduct experiments as well. You can actually have multiple posts served out to the same population at the same time, keeping lots of all the variables that you possibly can the same and only changing one, and comparing differences. It's a little bit less transparent. Facebook's not known for being particularly transparent about how it does everything. So we have to take some things on faith. We're not exactly sure what Facebook does all the time. But for the most part, we've been able to see some interesting learning. In this case in Alabama, the idea was to ask people some questions about solar energy. And in particular, it was designed, toward the goal of some advocacy on behalf of clean energy in the state, and collecting up those views to then, transmit those to decision makers. So here's two of the ads that we ran in direct head-to-head competition with each other. Show of hands. Who thinks the one with the soldiers, Alabama's a big military state, is going to work best? Okay, we got a few. How about for the farmer with his solar panels? A couple more on that one. Okay. Again, the idea here was folks who wanted to test the one with the military said, gee, it's a compelling picture to me. If our US military is using solar, that says to me, let's do that. This is mainstream, right? That's exciting. And that'll work in Alabama. Right? We've got a lot of military families. So there was a good theory there, I thought, about what that image, said to the people who wanted to test it. Let's see what we found. So, again, on click rates, very similar. There's no statistical difference between those two click rates in people's Facebook news feeds. But a significant difference when it comes to the action rate. Okay, so again, this is of the people who are clicking, who's going on to fill out an 8-question survey and hitting submit, and also with the option to provide an email address. I'm really kind of impressed by both of those action rates actually, and a lot of people told me, this will be tough in Alabama. It's been unbelievably, it's been one of the best I've seen in these kinds of experiments that we've done. And we ran the statistics on this. For those of you who are statisticians and math wizards, you've maybe you know about the Z-score, and it is a significant, there's that 21% versus 30% is not due to anything random. And it translates into real dollars and cents if you're looking to generate actions. So what's going on here? What's the explanation? Why, right? And so I'm glad, it's helpful economically, it's helpful for results to do all this testing, right? When we go into sort of a focus group setting and actually get a chance to listen to how people are reacting to images. One of the things we find with this kind of an image and with these military images with solar energy is people say, well, when they see it, it actually isn't really a photo about solar power to them. It's a photo about the military. And they think about relatives in the military, sons in the military, daughters in the military, how hard the military works, the different kinds of roles the military has. And we saw that in some of the comments we were seeing on Facebook about this image. We had people clicking because to them and to our audience, our assumption that this was a photo about solar energy was wrong. And we keep learning that we're wrong about this stuff, which is why we keep testing and why we are working and encouraging in more groups to do more and more testing. In our focus groups, you get a chance sometimes to get ideas about things to test in online experiments. So I mentioned earlier that we've seen contrast, juxtaposition, be something that's engaging. And indeed, in some online focus groups that we ran, these kinds of before and after pictures, side-by-sides that are very clearly telling a story of contrast are very memorable for people. At the end of groups, they're the ones that sort of stick with people. Often they are engaging. And we've taken that and tried it in some of our online ad campaigns. Testing side-by-sides, like the one on the right there versus the one on the left, and no contest, right? Everything's the same, the words are the same, the design's the same, right? So if you're thinking, oh, well, it's the text that really matters, right? The text, no, doesn't matter. We have the exact same text. There was the same text below the post and above the post. Facebook lets you add some words in. We kept all of that constant. Big difference, though, in terms of both click rates and action rates between something that is showing a juxtaposition and contrast versus something that's not. The words do matter. We have tested images with no text overlay versus images with text overlay. It is helpful to have some text overlay, but they don't do the heavy lifting. Your image is primary still. And people are not sitting there and studying these things closely. We worked with Green for All on a project, this now also through Facebook ads, but Green for All was interested in reaching African American and Latino residents in major urban areas and getting their views on dealing with extreme weather and learning some of their attitudes and needs related to climate impacts like big storms. That's Hurricane Sandy, and that's a subway that was impacted by Hurricane Sandy, but we ran these about a year after Hurricane Sandy. They both got good clicks, but the one on the left didn't get a lot of people giving us their views on dealing with climate impacts. Again, this was a Facebook experiment. We're not exactly sure why. Why were people clicking on that but not going on to answer a survey about dealing with extreme weather? Well, it could be that you're just wondering, oh, I wonder which subway line is flooded, or if that one's near me. It might have been very different if we'd ran this right after Hurricane Sandy, when that image of the subway car was an iconic image of the effects of extreme weather. But a year and a half later when we tried it, doesn't look like it was. So something, again, you can come up with good, compelling reasons why both of these might be effective, but we don't know unless we actually experiment with them which one actually is for the audience, for the goals, and for the kind of action that the organization was looking for at this time. So we're starting to work, the more that we kind of experiment with this stuff and keep finding that situations are different, audiences are different, the more that we are really trying to find ways for more people to be able to do more of this. And there's all kinds of ways. We've got a new guide that I think we'll send a link around to called What They See Matters, that's got information about some of the different kinds of options, everything from working with an expensive firm, the political opinion research firm that can do all this for you, right down to just actually doing it yourself. And in fact, tomorrow we'll have a table where we'll do a couple little impromptu focus groups for a few people who brought photos, hopefully, that would like some feedback. And in these focus groups, we'll do a couple things. We'll look at the importance of sequencing. I showed you all this photo and asked you what you saw, but what if I showed you that photo first? Right? I would have biased how you would have answered the first one, right? Sequencing matters. We'll show what it looks like to use a quick glance test in a focus group to sort of simulate real life, where you show people photos just quickly and then put them away and ask them what sticks with them the most and why. It's a nifty way in a focus group setting to try to simulate some of that quick glance exposure that happens in real life online. And we work with groups on how to pay attention to how people are responding, the kinds of words and phrases they're using. Are images generating just kind of very flat, sort of dull, clean, whatever, this, that? Or are people starting to have personal experiences that they're talking about when they see a photo, relating it to something in their lives, using words that have some sort of feeling or emotion in them, or either that are expressions of the viewer's emotions or are expressions of the subject's emotions, because we know from behavioral research that a viewer of an image feels some of what the subject of the image is feeling. And we will look also at how it makes a difference how we group images in this kind of testing. Obviously, in that first set, you're testing sort of widely different kinds of visual appeals around a land conservation topic, perhaps, whereas in the second set, you're looking for feedback on subtle variations in composition. This is all something that this kind of testing and getting this kind of feedback is all something that, for a big project, yeah, probably hard to do yourself and hard to get the right people in the room depending on who your audience is, but for a real cash-strapped, grassroots, I need some feedback this week, there are all kinds of ways to do this ourselves. And tomorrow we'll practice with that a little bit. I mentioned the sort of stickiness test, which is another great one that we'll try again tomorrow as well. Over the course of showing people images, once you're all done, or even if you're going to see people the next day, asking people what still sticks with them in their mind's eye. I'm going to stop there, and like I said, I don't know what time tomorrow, but at some point we'll have some tables, and we'll have a chance to actually put this into practice, at least in the focus group type of research, not so much the online experiment. Thank you.